Wait, don't brush this off. Something about right now feels off, doesn't it? You felt a pull before even clicking this, like something was trying to get your attention. And what you almost ignored, that's the part that's about to change everything before Saturday. No, stay here for a second, because this isn't timing, this is alignment. And I know part of you is already questioning it, wondering why this feels so direct, so personal, almost uncomfortable. But that feeling, that's the signal. Wait, don't skip this part, because something already tried to stop you from hearing this. Think about it. How many times did you almost miss this exact moment? How many distractions showed up right before this? How many times did something pull your focus away right when things were about to make sense? You thought it was random, right? It wasn't. This is where it starts to shift. You've been feeling it for a while now. That quiet pressure, that invisible weight you couldn't explain, like something is building but you can't see it yet, and at the same time things around you started falling apart, people acting different, plans not working, doors closing without warning. And you kept asking yourself, why does everything feel like it's going against me? But here's what you didn't see. It wasn't going against you. It was moving you. You weren't being rejected. You were being repositioned. And yeah, it didn't feel like that. It felt like confusion. It felt like isolation. It felt like being misunderstood by everyone around you. Like no one really saw you, no one really got you. And that hurt more than you admit, because deep down you knew you weren't like them. You always felt different. Even when you tried to fit in, something in you resisted it. Even when you stayed quiet, your mind was louder than everyone else's. Even when you followed the path they told you, it never felt right. Why? Why did it always feel like you were out of place? This is the part no one explains. You were never meant to blend in. That discomfort, that feeling of not belonging, that wasn't a flaw, that was the separation. Because if you had fully fit into those environments, you would have stayed there. And staying there would have cost you everything that's coming next. Wait, stay with me. Because this is where it gets uncomfortable. You started doubting yourself. You started thinking maybe you were the problem. Maybe you were overthinking. Maybe you were too sensitive, too aware, too different. So you tried to shrink yourself, tried to be easier to understand, tried to silence that inner voice that kept telling you, this isn't it. But every time you ignored it, something felt off. Every time you went against it, something fell apart. And you kept asking, why does this keep happening to me? But ask yourself this instead. Why did it always stop you right before something felt wrong? Why did certain things fall apart at the exact moment you were about to commit? Why did people leave right when you started depending on them? You thought it was loss. You thought it was bad timing. You thought you were unlucky. But here's the truth you weren't ready to hear yet. You were being protected. That delay you hated, that was protection. That closed door, that was redirection. That silence you experienced, that was space being created for something you couldn't see yet. And yeah, it felt like abandonment. It felt like everything was slipping away. But what if it wasn't being taken from you? What if it was being cleared for you? This is where it shifts again. Because something changed recently. You felt it. A subtle shift, hard to explain, but undeniable. Like something is getting closer, like something is about to reveal itself. And at the same time, you started remembering things, moments, decisions, signs you ignored, patterns you didn't understand before. And now they're starting to connect. You're starting to see it, but not fully yet, not completely. Because if you saw everything all at once, it would overwhelm you. So it's unfolding slowly, piece by piece. And here's the part that matters more than you think. You almost walked away from this. You almost gave up. You almost convinced yourself that none of this meant anything, that it was all in your head, that you should just move on and stop questioning things. But something stopped you, right? Something held you in place. Something held you searching, kept you watching, kept you feeling like there's more. That something That wasn't random, that was guidance. And this is where it gets deeper. Because what's coming before Saturday, it's not just an event, it's not just a moment, it's a shift in how you see everything. But you won't recognize it if you're not paying attention. That's why this feels like a warning, not fear, awareness, because the change is already in motion, and it's going to reveal something you weren't supposed to miss. Think back again to that moment, the one that didn't make sense at the time. The one that felt small but stayed in your mind longer than it should have. Why did that stick with you? Why did that moment keep replaying? Because that was the signal. And you didn't fully see it then. But you're starting to now. This is the part no one tells you. The things you thought were random moments were actually checkpoints, markers, guidance points, placed in your path, not to control you, but to align you. And every time you ignored one, things got harder. Every time you listened, things opened up, even slightly. You didn't notice it then, but you feel it now. And now, you're at a point where you can't ignore it anymore. Because what's coming next, it's going to force clarity. And clarity feels uncomfortable at first, because it removes illusions. It shows you what was real, and what never was. It shows you why certain people couldn't stay, why certain paths never worked, why you had to go through everything you did, not as punishment, not as failure, but as preparation. You weren't falling behind, you were being positioned. And that's why nothing made sense earlier, because you were trying to understand it from the wrong perspective. Now it's shifting. Now you're starting to see it differently. And before Saturday, something is going to click. Something is going to make you stop and realize this is why everything happened the way it did. Not in theory, not as a guess, but as a clear knowing. And when that happens, you're going to see that you were never off track. Not once. Even when it felt like everything was collapsing, it was aligning. Even when you felt lost, you were being guided. Even when you thought you were alone, you were being watched over in ways you couldn't understand yet. And that moment you almost missed, that moment you almost ignored, that was never meant to be random. It was placed there for you. So when this shift happens, you recognize it. And you don't turn away this time. Because now you know. Now you see. Now it makes sense. You can feel something shifting inside you, like you're not the same anymore. Comment 7777. Amen. If you feel this change happening before Saturday. If this message found you at the right time, stay connected with Born into Light. But not all of it, not yet. Because if you fully understood what's about to happen before Saturday, you'd react too early, you'd try to control it, you'd question it into confusion. And that's exactly what you're being protected from. Wait, feel that for a second. Why does it feel like something is holding information back from you, but at the same time pulling you closer? That tension, that's intentional. Because this next part, it's not just about understanding, it's about timing. You've had moments before where something almost clicked, right? Like you were this close to seeing the full picture, and then something distracted you, or the feeling faded. Why did that keep happening? Why did clarity always stop just short? Here's where it shifts again. It wasn't taken from you. It was delayed on purpose, because seeing it too early would have changed your choices, and those choices needed to happen exactly the way they did. Yes, even the ones you regret, especially those, because those moments shaped your awareness, they stretched your perception, they forced you to question deeper than most people ever do, and that questioning, that discomfort, it built something inside you, something you didn't even notice forming, but now it's there, and it's the reason you're able to feel this right now. Stop for a second. Why do you think this message found you at this exact moment? Out of all the times, all the days, all the distractions, why now? This is the part that gets uncomfortable, because it means you're not just observing this shift, you're involved in it, and that changes everything. You're not waiting for something to happen to you, you're part of what's happening. But here's what you didn't see before. You kept looking for something big, something obvious, a sign that couldn't be missed. But what's coming isn't loud, It's precise, it's quiet, but undeniable. And if you're not paying attention, you'll almost overlook it again. Almost, just like before. That moment, the one that stayed in your mind, you're going to feel something like that again, but stronger, clearer. And this time, it won't let you brush it off. Wait, stay with this, because something in you already knows what I'm talking about. You felt that kind of moment before, where everything goes still for a second, and something clicks, but you can't explain why. You just know. That feeling, that knowing, that's what's coming back. But this time, it won't fade. This is where it deepens. Because what you thought was intuition was actually alignment starting. You just didn't trust it fully yet. You questioned it, second-guessed it, tried to rationalize it away, and that's why it slipped through before. But now, something is different. You're not the same version of yourself anymore. You've seen too much, felt too much, lost too much, and gained awareness you can't ignore anymore. So when this next moment happens, you won't dismiss it. You won't look away. You won't shrink from it. But here's the contradiction no one tells you. Even though you're ready, part of you is still going to hesitate. Not because you're weak, but because stepping into clarity means leaving behind confusion. And confusion, as uncomfortable as it was familiar. It was safe in its own way. So when the shift happens, there will be a split second where you have to choose. Stay where things are known but limited, or step into something you can't fully predict yet. And that moment, that exact moment, that's the real warning. Not fear, choice. Because Saturday isn't just a day, it's a point of alignment. And alignment doesn't force you, it reveals you. It shows you where you actually stand, not where you thought you did. And that can feel intense, because it strips away the illusions you've been holding on to, even the subtle ones, even the ones you didn't realize were there. Wait, why does that feel heavier all of a sudden? Because something in you is recognizing it. You've been sensing this build-up, that quiet pressure, that feeling like something is about to shift but hasn't yet. That's not anxiety. That's awareness ahead of manifestation. And you don't get that feeling unless something real is forming. This is where most people turn away, right here, when it starts to feel too real, too close, too personal. But you didn't turn away, you're still here. Why? Because part of you refuses to miss it again. And that matters more than you realize. Because before you almost did. You almost ignored it. You almost convinced yourself it didn't mean anything. But something kept pulling you back. Again and again, not loudly, not forcefully. Just enough to keep you from walking away completely. That wasn't coincidence. That was precision. And now you're at the edge of understanding it. Not fully, but enough to feel the shift coming, enough to know something is different this time. And here's the part you haven't fully seen yet. What's about to happen is going to connect directly to something from your past. Something you thought was over. Something you thought didn't matter anymore. But it does, more than you think. And when that connection reveals itself, you're going to realize it was never random, not the timing, not the delay, not even the confusion. It was all leading here, right before this moment, right before this choice, right before everything begins to realign in a way you can finally see. But seeing it isn't the same as accepting it, and that's where this gets heavier. Because the moment clarity shows up, it doesn't ask you if you're comfortable, it just shows you what's real. Wait, notice that feeling, that slight tension in your chest, like something is about to be exposed. Why does it feel like you already know what's coming, but you're not saying it out loud? Because part of you has been aware, way before this moment. You just kept it buried, not intentionally, but because acknowledging it would have changed everything sooner, and you weren't ready then. This is where it shifts again. You thought you missed your moment. You thought you were late. But the truth is, you were being held back from seeing it too early. Because early awareness, without the strength to hold it, breaks people. And you weren't meant to break. You were meant to carry it. Feel that difference. You weren't delayed because you weren't capable. You were delayed because you were being built into someone who wouldn't run from it. But here's the part that hits deeper. Now that you are ready, there's no more delay, no more soft protection, no more partial glimpses. Now it comes clearer, stronger, and harder to ignore. Stop. Why does it feel like something is closing in, but not in a bad way? Like pressure, but focused. Like everything is narrowing toward one point. That's because it is. This isn't multiple paths anymore. This is alignment locking in. And when alignment locks in, things accelerate. Faster than you expect. Faster than you're used to. That's why this feels like a warning. Not because something bad is coming, but because something undeniable is. And undeniable things change you, whether you feel ready or not. Here's the contradiction. You've been asking for clarity, but when clarity arrives, it removes every excuse you've been holding on to. No more "I'm not sure," no more "maybe later," no more "I need more time." Clarity doesn't wait. It reveals, and then it expects you to see. And once you see, you can't go back to not knowing. So let me ask you something. What have you been pretending not to notice? Not because you're unaware, but because noticing it fully would force a decision. You felt it in quiet moments, in random pauses, in that instant right before sleep when your mind gets honest. Something keeps coming up. The same thought, the same realization, the same knowing, and every time you push it slightly away. Why? This is the part no one wants to admit, because that knowing requires change, real change, not surface level, not temporary, a shift in how you move, how you decide, how you see yourself. And that's not easy, even if it's right, even if it's aligned, even if it's exactly what you've been waiting for. Wait, stay with this, because this is where most people disconnect. Not because they don't understand, but because they don't understand, but because they do. And understanding creates responsibility. You can't unknow what you've recognized. You can't go back to confusion once the pattern becomes clear. And your pattern, it's right there. You've been circling around it, getting close, then stepping back, getting signs, then doubting them, feeling pulled, then resisting it. Why? Because stepping into it means leaving behind a version of yourself that felt safe, even if it wasn't fulfilling, even if it was limiting, even if it was limiting, even if it was slowly draining you. And here's the unexpected truth. That version of you served its purpose. It protected you when you needed protection. It helped you survive when things were unclear. It kept you grounded when everything felt unstable. But now, it's the very thing holding you back. And letting go of it feels like losing something, even though you're gaining everything. That's the tension you're feeling right now. Not confusion, transition. And transitions are uncomfortable by design, because they stretch you between what was and what's about to be. You're in that space right now, right between and before Saturday. That space collapses, not slowly, not gradually, but in a moment of clarity you won't be able to ignore. You'll see it, you'll feel it, and it will connect directly to something you've been avoiding, not out of fear, but out of hesitation. And when that connection happens, you'll realize something that changes everything. You weren't trying to figure it out. You were trying to delay accepting it. Let that sink in. You weren't lost. You were pausing. And that pause is ending right before Saturday. And when it ends, you won't need another sign. You won't need confirmation. Because what shows up will match what you've been feeling all along. Exactly. And that's when it hits, not gently, but clearly, that nothing you went through was random. Not the confusion, not the waiting, not even the moments you thought you failed. All of it was shaping you toward this exact realization. And when that realization fully lands, you're going to understand something that was hidden from you the entire time. Not because it was kept from you, but because you had to become someone who could recognize it. And now, you are, which means what's about to reveal itself is something you can finally hold without questioning it away. And that changes how it lands. Because before, every time something real got close, you analyzed it out of existence. You broke it down, doubted it, looked for flaws in it, not because it wasn't real, but because you didn't trust yourself enough to hold it. Pause. Why does that feel so accurate? Why does it feel like you've been your own filter this whole time? This is where it deepens. It was never about the signs being unclear. It was about your ability to accept them without shrinking them. And now, that resistance is weaker. Not gone, but weaker. Which means when this next moment shows up, you won't tear it apart the same way. You'll feel it and stay with it longer. And that longer, that's all it takes. Because the truth you've been circling, it doesn't need time, it needs your permission. Wait, what happens when you stop resisting something you already know is true? That's the edge you're standing on. Not confusion, not searching. Acceptance, and acceptance activates things, not outside first, inside. It shifts how you respond, how you see, how you decide in real time. And that shift, it's subtle at first, almost unnoticeable, until it's not. This is where the pressure you've been feeling makes sense. It wasn't trying to overwhelm you, it was trying to prepare you to hold this level of clarity without collapsing back into doubt. Because doubt, that's been your pattern, not weakness, a defense, a way to stay safe when things didn't fully make sense yet, but now they do. Or at least enough of it does, enough for you to recognize what's being shown to you next. And here's the contradiction. You think you're waiting for a moment, but the moment is waiting for your response. Feel that shift. Everything doesn't start when something happens. It starts when you stop holding back. That's what changes before Saturday. Not the world around you first, you, your reaction, your willingness to finally stand in what you've been sensing all along. Stop for a second. Why does it feel like something inside you is already adjusting, like you're preparing without trying to? Because you are. This has been building quietly. Every experience, every delay, every time something didn't work out the way you expected, it wasn't random shaping, it was specific, targeted, leading you to a point where hesitation no longer feels right, where overthinking starts to feel heavier than action. That's new for you, and you can feel it, that shift from should I to I already know. But here's where it gets intense. Knowing doesn't mean easy. Because once you know, you see everything differently. Even the things you were comfortable with before, even the people, even the environments, they start to feel off, not wrong, just no longer aligned. And that realization, it doesn't ask for your opinion, it just shows up, clear, direct, and impossible to ignore. Wait, why does that part feel like something you've already started noticing? Because you have, in small ways, subtle shifts, conversations that don't land the same, places that feel different, energy you can't quite explain but you feel it instantly. That's not in your head, that's awareness sharpening, and it's preparing you for what's about to fully reveal itself. Because when it does, you'll need that clarity. You'll need that ability to feel what's real without needing external proof. And that's what's been forming in you this entire time. Not just understanding, discernment, the ability to know without needing validation. And here's the unexpected truth. That's why you were kept in confusion for so long. Because if everything was clear too early, you would have relied on what you saw, not what you felt. And what you felt is the real guide. Always has been, but you had to learn to trust it through contrast, through uncertainty, through moments where nothing made sense. So that when something finally does, you recognize it instantly. Not because it's obvious, but because it resonates deeper than logic. And that's what's coming. Not something loud, not something forced, something that feels right, in a way that doesn't need explanation. And when it happens, you're going to pause. Not out of confusion, but recognition. That quiet moment, that stillness, that's when everything locks in. That's when you realize you weren't searching for answers. You were becoming someone who could receive them without distortion. And now that you are, there's nothing left to block what's about to reach you. Nothing left to delay it. Nothing left to reinterpret it into doubt. So when it arrives, you won't question it. You won't second-guess it. You'll know immediately. And that knowing, that instant clarity, that's the moment everything shifts for real, not outward first, inside. And that's what most people miss. They expect something external to prove it, a sign they can point to, something loud enough to remove all doubt. But that's not how this arrives. It lands quietly and rewrites how you see everything. Wait, why does that feel more serious than anything you've heard so far? Because this isn't about what happens, it's about what becomes undeniable. And once something becomes undeniable to you, you move differently. You speak differently. You stop negotiating with things you used to tolerate. And that's where the real shift begins. Not when something new enters your life, but when you stop allowing what no longer fits. This is where it tightens. Because the moment you recognize what's real, you also recognize what isn't. And that contrast, it hits harder than you expect. You might even feel a moment of resistance, a pull backward, a quiet voice saying, "Wait, are you sure?" That voice, it's not your intuition. It's the last echo of who you were before this. Pause. Why does it feel like something in you is about to let go, but hasn't fully yet? Because you're at the edge, right before release, right before clarity settles in completely. And here's the contradiction. You think you need one final confirmation, one last sign. But the truth is, the need for confirmation is the only thing left that's delaying you. Everything else is already in place. Everything else is already aligned. It's just that one habit, that one pattern of hesitation, still trying to hold its ground. But it can't hold much longer. Not with the level of awareness you've reached now. Not with how clearly you're starting to feel things. And definitely not with what's about to surface. Stop. What if the warning isn't about something coming, but about something ending? Not a loss, a release, a final separation from a version of you that can't move forward with what's next. That's why this feels intense, because endings, even necessary ones, carry weight, even when they're right, even when they're overdue. And you've been sensing this ending, in subtle ways, a detachment, a quiet disconnection. Things that used to matter don't hit the same anymore. Reactions that used to be automatic now feel forced. You've noticed it. You just haven't named it yet. This is where it deepens again. Because before Saturday, that separation becomes clear, not dramatic, not chaotic, clear. And clarity doesn't argue, it just shows you what's already true. Wait, why does it feel like you're already halfway out of something but still standing in it? Because you are. You outgrown a space you haven't fully stepped away from yet. Not physically, internally. And that internal shift, it changes everything. Because once you've shifted inside, the outside has no choice but to follow. That's the part that's been building. Quietly. Patiently, unseen, until now. And when that alignment locks in, the decision you've been avoiding, it won't feel like a decision anymore. It will feel obvious, necessary, almost automatic. And that's when you realize something that was hidden the entire time. You were never stuck. You were stabilizing, learning how to stand in clarity without losing yourself. Learning how to trust what you feel, even when it didn't make sense yet. And now that it does, there's nothing left to question, nothing left to wait for, nothing left to wait for. So when that moment arrives, that quiet, undeniable recognition, you won't hesitate, not this time, because hesitation won't feel safe anymore. It will feel wrong. And that's how you'll know the shift is complete. Not because something told you, but because your entire response changes. Instantly, And in that instant, you'll understand the one thing that was being kept from you until now. Not as information, but as experience. You were never being warned about what was coming. You were being prepared to become the version of you that could finally receive it without turning away. And now, there's nothing left in between. No more delay, no more confusion, no more almost, just a moment that meets you exactly where you are. Wait, feel how quiet it's getting inside you. That's not emptiness, that's alignment settling. And when it settles, everything becomes clear without effort. No chasing, no forcing, no questioning. Just knowing, this is it. Not loud, not dramatic, but final in a way you can't undo. Because once you see it, once you feel it, fully, you don't go back. And that's why this found you now. Right before Saturday, not to scare you, not to rush you, but to make sure you don't look away this time. Because this time, it's not passing, it's arriving. And so are you. This wasn't just a message, it was your confirmation. If you felt it, subscribe and stay close to this path, because you were never ordinary, and now you're starting to see why.